Well, hello there. Thank you so much for stopping by. I am Ciera Payton, and this is my YouTube channel, a space where I share all about my lifestyle of being an actress, educator, and entrepreneur, and hopes to give you a few little tips and tricks and help you along your creative journey or just along your life in any way possible. So here we go. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, this particular segment is an 8-part video series where I talk all about how I got started in the entertainment industry as an actress. So in the first video, I talk about being bit by the acting bug. I end up talking about how I got my reps, networking, and now specifically in this video, I want to talk about knowing your type. All right, but before we begin, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. You can also ring my bell so you can know all about when I post a new video. All right, so let's dive right on in. All right, so knowing your type. This was one of the things that I've always felt was a challenge for me. And even still now, I am a little challenged by it. Partly because as an actor, as a creative, you want to play everything. You don't want to be limited by how you look or, you know, how tall you are or how you sound like or where you're from. You want to be able to jump into any shoes and play any character without limitation or fault or anything like that. However, you know, in this business, you have to have some type of awareness of who you are and what you look like and what you present on screen. But that isn't to take away, you know, how talented you are. And, you know, if you want to play a fish or if you want to play, I don't know, a certain type of character or be a character actor, or you want to jump into, you know, some type of sci-fi, alien or something, you know, that is to not say, you know, limit yourself or that you can't do any of that. What I'm talking about specifically is what is your essence, you know, knowing your essence and what you present when you get on screen. So, you know, I would say early on for me, again, this was a little bit challenging because, you know, when I first started off, you know, I lived in New Orleans. I was doing a lot of community theater, going to performing arts high school, and that experience in those environments were all about what we used to say back in the day was colorblind casting. You know, Ty Tracy Theater in New Orleans, which was a local community theater, he would cast people at all kinds of roles, you know, and it didn't matter, you know, what they looked like, what their background was, what their ethnicity was. For example, you know, when I did one of my first plays at that community theater, I played Lana Turner. And today people will be like, what? That's crazy. But that was just a philosophy, you know, back in the day of, you know, just letting people play different roles, you know, and it was children's theater. So it didn't matter, you know, you could play whatever and be whoever you wanted to be and have fun. But going back to, you know, that particular role, that was one of the first roles I got cast in. And, you know, it was all about this like classy, sophisticated woman getting discovered at a smoothie or a milkshake bar. I forgot what it's called back in the days. So I had to kind of tune into that. Like, okay, that's one of my first roles in a community theater play. Interesting. Then I went on to college, and, you know, in college, it was more practical. You know, like, these are the only roles you're suited for if you look like this, if your hair looks like this, if you're this tall, if you're this short, if you weigh this much, if you don't weigh this much. And so, you know, being the only Black woman in a setting like that, a lot of times it was very, very confusing. And it was even more confusing for me because I did grow up in a mixed race background. And so, you know, to talk about limitations on what I look like or what I sound like or how tall I am was just even more confusing and brought out so many, you know, insecurities around, you know, my ethnicity, my race, and, you know, what I should look like, how I should be, all those type of things. And those are just messages that I had gotten from childhood, and then to go to college and get some type of messaging like that again was a little confusing. But I would say I figured out how to really navigate that. And the way I did it was just really be true to who I am and what my interests are and what I like and the type of movies I like. You know, for example, I do remember very early on in class, we had to talk about who our favorite actors were or what our favorite movies were. And everyone was like giving these, profound artists and actors, the Laurence Oliviers and, the Marlon Brandos. And those are amazing actors and, people that I just always have adored watching or hearing stories about. But when it came around to me, I was like, look, I love J-Lo and Halle Berry. And I got laughed at because, I don't know, I guess I wasn't with the program then, But those are just women that I just found so empowering, to me at that time and even still now, because they were women who really leaned into who they were and their essence and what they brought on camera and how they presented themselves. And so even now, as I'm evolving, I'm constantly trying to figure out how to define my type and my essence and who I am. And so those are things that I would encourage you to do too in your creative journey. One of the big things that I would say really helped me early on to start to kind of put myself in that mind space of, who I am and what I present on camera is watching other actors, and watching other actors who look like me. That right there is why we say representation is so important. You like Viola Davis, she recently said, you have to see your dream manifest so you can believe and know that it can happen, that it's real. And so when I was a kid, when I said, the Halle Berry, even Angela Bassett, stuff like that, those type of women, watching them were so inspiring to me. And, those are type of women or type of roles that I wanted to emulate, as I've traveled and journeyed throughout my career. But, as I got older, I just started being like, okay, who else is out there that, I can not only relate to, but, people say that I remind them of, or, I may look like, or whatever. And so a lot of times, I would get Gina Torres or Rosario Dawson. And I just started to really look at them and study them and be like, oh, they're these very strong, very fierce, very sophisticated women. And the roles that they play are, these powerful roles, these, commanding roles, but also very vulnerable roles as well. And so that's really when I started to take a peek into, okay, really learning and owning my type. Yes, I want to be a chameleon of an actress and, play all types of roles, everything that's outside of, what I would categorically or usually be typecast as or whatever. It's not a bad thing to, lean into what you think you would typically play, if that makes sense, because a lot of times those things can open the door to really, explore and book really meaty, juicy things, if that makes sense. And, I would say early on in my career, I did kind of run away from all the stereotypical type of roles. And sometimes I look back at that and I'm like, I kind of regret it, but then I kind of don't. A lot of stuff really early on for me was extremely, hypersexualized, just very look-based. And I was like, nah, I don't want to go down that path so soon yet. I definitely want to get known for being able to execute a role, really well, be able to show some of my chops, show my vulnerability, and then be able to transition into, the hypersexualized or, the vixen types of role. I don't know, where I stand particularly on that now, but it's something that I'm still open to exploring. And I hope that makes sense. But I would say, really discover who your type is by looking at other people who you feel you relate to, who you feel have your similar essence, who you feel like you look like, and then just let that rock. Another example that I think of too is just, I talked about my first community theater play, but my first professional acting role, I was flying planes and, shooting bad guys and playing a, undercover CIA agent. And so learning that, like, oh man, I got cast as that, kind of let me be like, okay, there is my stature, I'm 5'8". I do have an athletic build. There's something about that lends itself to, being in high action type of roles or high commanding type of roles. And so, I used to, before being cast as that, I used to wish that I wasn't 5'8". I used to be like, oh, I wish I was shorter. I wish I was, super skinny and all those things. And when I've gotten cast in those action type of roles, you know, with Flight of Fury and, you know, with Walking Dead, or roles where my height is accepted, it's made me accept myself more and really lean into, oh, this is, you know, I understand this is what I'm bringing on screen. This is my type. This is my essence. And so just leaning into that and appreciating it, and also not being afraid to venture out of that. So yeah, it's just all about really knowing who you are and, you know, knowing what people see you as and leaning into that, but also adding a little more spice on top of that, you know, peppering in some other things on top of that. But knowing this stuff and just being mindful of what you present and what your essence will help you out so much whenever you do have general meetings with agents or casting directors or producers, or even whenever you're building a character, so you can have reference material. And, you know, if you want to bring some of those things those other actors have done into your work, you know, it's going to help you so much and help your career so much and help you to be able to communicate to your team in terms of like, hey, you know, for example, I named Gina Torres and Rosario Dawson. It's like, hey, you know, these women, they do these type of roles. Like, those are the type of roles I'm seeking. Obviously, I'm not an identical match to them, and, you know, I don't look like them, you know, 100% or anything. And so, you know, I don't want to just like go in and limit myself and be like, oh, you know, only these type of roles, only these type of women I want to play. But it gives a springboard for them to be like, oh, okay, she could bring that type of vibe to different type of characters. Or, you know, if they're pitching you, they could be, you know, like, oh, Ciera Payton, if you're not familiar with her, she kind of has like a Gina Torres vibe, or a Rosario Dawson type of vibe. So those are just things that just like kind of keep in the head when you're thinking about yourself as an actor, as an entertainer, as a performer. You know, what is your essence? What are you bringing? And who out there is similar to you, who has kind of paved the way already? So yeah, knowing those different actors or performers who have helped to pave the way can help you start to just align with your identity as an actor and what type of characters you want to manifest and align with. So yeah, so thank you again for watching. We have a few more videos coming up just talking about my journey and helping you along your journey. And if you have any questions, please leave them below in the comment section. I would love to read them and love to incorporate them in my other videos. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.